What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? It's your boy, Pastor B, Boyd. It's just here to share some good wisdom with you. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. I want you to know that we are excited about all the things that are available to us if we learn how to do it. The Bible says that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And so I want you to know that you have a 100% chance to live completely addiction free if you do it God's way. And so our objective is to just give you some biblical understanding of how to do things practically, because addiction is a practical disease. And you can do some practical things that will help you defeat this thing called addiction and avoid relapse. It's not about being strong. It's not about being demonically influenced, simply demonically influenced. It's also about whether or not I am functioning with the wisdom of God. It's a thin line between the church world is a thin line between just being blaming everything on the devil and versus someone that understands the tactics of the enemy and how it can cause you to be diseased, if you will. And there are some things that we should be aware of so we don't fall into that type of trap. One of those things is like this. My grandmother, my mom, my mother, my dad all have had. My grandmother has passed. My mom has passed. My father is still alive. But they've always battled with diabetes. They battle with it. Okay. And so when I was probably in 2012, I noticed that I started losing a lot of weight. And I was drinking a lot of coffee and all my coffee had a lot of sugar in it. And I couldn't stop losing weight, and I didn't know why. I had no energy to lose weight, and I was losing weight. So ultimately, I went to no, I was at home, and I noticed that I was getting up and going to the restroom frequently. I mean, frequently, and it was nerve wracking. And so my wife said, "Baby, we need to get you checked out." And I'm a believer that the blood of Jesus, I'm healed. I believe that the weapons of the enemy will not prosper against me. I believe these scriptures. However, practically, I had to go to the doctor to see whether or not what was going on. And my glucose was A1C was 13. Now, if anybody know anything about being diabetic, A1C at 13 is really bad. So when the doctor said that, I said to the doctor, I was like, I just lost it. And I was like, man, no, I'm not going to be taking insulin like my mom did. I have so many uncles and aunts and that have diabetes from my mother's side that lost their leg, lost their knees. They lost, had kidney damage on dialysis. I mean, a whole history of it. So to make a long story short, I didn't want to accept that I had a disease. So what I did was I prayed, and my wife was upset because I had the disease, and I was diagnosed with the disease and all kinds of things. So we went. I got the insulin, but I didn't take it, and I went into prayer. And then I said, I need to change my eating habits, and I need to start doing something that will it give me a defense mechanism against the things that the disease, which is diabetes. So practical things, I started eating different. I stopped eating all of the sugar that I would normally eat. I lost about 20 pounds. I started riding a bicycle 5 days a week at that time. I was riding it 5 days a week. I started working against all of that. And my A1C dropped. My glucose, my numbers dropped. My A1C, when I went back to the doctor, was a little bit under like 5 point something. And the doctor, they removed me after about 7 years of it being really good. They removed diabetes from my chart. And so it classified I didn't have diabetes. Now, it wasn't that I wasn't dealing with it. It was I was behaving in ways that was removing the avoiding diabetes. Now, some people would say, well, if God healed you, then you're healed and you can go eat what you want to eat. Yeah, I understand that. But I also understand that God told me personally I needed to do practical things. I had to stop eating all of that, those trotters that I used to eat. I used to eat pig feet all the time. I had to stop eating Krispy Kreme donuts. I had to have habits to support the fact that I didn't want to deal with the disease of diabetes. Well, in the practical way, I want you to understand that when you're dealing with addiction, of course, it is a disease. It's a disease, but it can be treated, and it can be, you can be delivered from it. But the core problem with disease from a Christian point of view is that it comes from a spiritual problem. And the spiritual problem is you can address it, but also you have to have physical results to address the results. So some people pray and they say God takes the taste out of their mouth. I know it's a miracle, and they never even revisited addiction again. Perfect. God can do that. Also, but on the other hand, some people that you prayed, you recognized it, you rebuked it, you claimed healing, but also you did some things to avoid the situation of addiction ever again. And these things I'm talking to you about today, that what has to happen. Okay. Now, first of all, do you remember that all disease comes from the enemy? There was no sickness, no disease on the earth until in the book of Genesis, chapter 3, when the fall of man is where the disobedience caused all kinds of disorder, and the ground itself began to rebel against man because of his disobedience. So all disease comes from sin, and sin comes from doing things against the will or the way God would have you to do it. Now don't turn me off. Don't shout me down on this. There are disease that's been perpetrated continually throughout all kinds of generations that's been following up. I know that addiction has been seen throughout generations. Even in the Bible, it says don't have strong drink. You need to stay away from that. It talked about a king that was that got drunk all the time. Even Noah was he began to drink, and he became so drunk that he was found by his daughters, and he was naked because he had become drunk. So it's drinking and alcoholism has been around for years. However, the number one thing that the enemy does to keep you trapped in addiction is he attacks the mind. Addiction is a spiritual problem with a physical result. It attacks the mind. So, do you remember when Eve was having a conversation with the serpent, and the influence of that serpent was Satan, and Satan asked her, what did God say? Did God say anything to you? And she began to tell Satan what God said, and then he attacked her memory. He says, God didn't say that. That's not the way it's supposed to be. I'm going to reshape the way you think about your situation. And he said, God knows that as soon as you eat of this tree of knowledge of good and evil, you're going to know good and evil, and you're going to be just like him. It was trickery, it was deception, but it also attacked what things she remembered what God said to her, or either that Adam had actually said to her. We don't know which one said it, but we do know that she knew it. Now, that's what the enemy attacks. He attacks your mind. He attacks the way you think. He suggests things. He allows circumstances on the outside to be so influential that you begin to think that thoughts that are totally contrary to what you know is right and what God says is right. So when you look at this in this passage and look at this, there are some things that you need to avoid to get away and remember to avoid relapse. Number one of these things. Number one, I want you to understand that you need to avoid, let's look at it. It says you need to avoid bad emotions, negative emotions. So when you avoid negative emotions, the negative emotions will influence you. That's the job. The negative emotions are to influence you. In other words, it makes you feel like, hey, that's bad. That's it. Avoid and get out of. Remember to get out of negative emotions. Your emotions are not supposed to be used to make decisions. They're not supposed to be used to make decisions. So I want to say this to you openly, and I want to say this to you so you can understand. When you get angry, when you get hungry, when you get lonely, when you become tired, you get all kinds of emotions that's not good. And so avoid that. Get out of it quickly. Now, how do you control your emotions? You can control your emotions by controlling your thoughts. Okay? All of it's about a mind game. So if you're angry, you got to pull away, and you have to think rationally, positively, and have a good rebuttal for whatever you're going through based on your feelings. Okay? I know I feel this way, but that's not the truth. Now, another way to get out of these emotions is exercise. Exercise releases what I call, just for everyone to have, a feel-good juice in your brain. I know it's some technical terms. I know that it has to do with endorphins and yes, I know that. I know, but I wanted to say it in a plain way. It produces feel-good juice. And the thing that you used to that made you feel bad, this juice is released when you exercise that can change how you feel. You got to do that. Another thing that can help you get out of those emotions is you can not exercise, but draw. You can draw and get a coloring book. You can color. These are things that can keep you away from a relapse, because if you stay in these emotions, it'll wear you out. Another thing you can do is journal. You can start writing down. Listen, when junk gets in, you got to get the junk out. So the way to get the junk out is to write down the junk, call someone and talk about the junk, but don't use because of the junk. Number two, not only that, but remember your purpose for being sober. Remember your purpose for being sober. Again, the adversary, the disease will attack your memory, and it'll make you start saying, oh, forget it, especially when you have bad emotions. And you don't just, that word forget it is not the word that you want to say. You want to use another word. And when you get to a place where you all forget it, then what you're actually saying is, I don't care anymore about why I'm trying to stay sober. Well, do you know that you being sober it gives you a better way to handle responsibilities? You'll become a better parent. You'll be a better individual. You're a better employee. You're a better employer. You're a better husband. You can't forget those things when you are trying to stay sober. Okay. Don't forget your purpose. The purpose outweighs the pain. The purpose outweighs any pleasure you might get from the pain. The purpose outweighs the temporary avoidance of the pain. So even getting high or doing something or whatever you're addicted to, food or whatever it is, and participating in irresponsible activities may give you the ability to cope with whatever stressors you're dealing with. Listen, I want you to understand that your purpose has to be more important than any other thing in your life. Okay? So that's one way to look at it. All right. Remember this, number 3. Remember to avoid relapse. Remember this. Remember that your plan for the predicament. Remember there's a plan. Whatever the plan is, you have to remember it. Now, what I'm trying to say is how is this a plan? Listen, there are certain things that you should do. Number 1, you should know the signs that you're struggling. So you should write down these signs, at least 5 signs that you're struggling. Write it down. Some people start struggling when they are alone, when they find themselves lonely. Somebody else starts struggling whenever there's conflict and they don't know how to handle conflict. So they become more stressed and they relapse. Another one, it would be anxiety. I start feeling anxious, anxiety. I start feeling all of these feelings. And the best way that I know to get out of it, they say to themselves, hey, I got to do this. I gotta get me something to eat. Listen, you got to have a plan. So look at all of the different things that you can plan. Again, I've called out some stuff like journaling and exercising, but there are also some other things you can do. You can take deep breaths so you can begin to think, because with this side of your brain, I call it, this is my definition of it, it's called the racing brain. You begin to race, you race. But to stop that racing brain, you take deep breaths, you breathe out, and then you turn on this part of the brain, which is the frontal lobe, which is I call the rational brain. And you turn off the racing and turn on the rational. And then when you begin to think rationally, you can make better decisions. Okay? All right. Number four. Remember, it's not permanent. I know it feels permanent when it's taking place. I know it feels like, man, am I ever gonna get through this? Am I ever gonna be able to make it through what I'm facing right now? Listen, it might seem like it's permanent, but it's never permanent. You hear me? This too shall pass. And when this too shall pass, you recognize it. You say it's not going to last forever. Even the cravings you might have. Cravings come and they come on strong. They come on, urges come on strong. But if you can find something else to do for 7 to 15 minutes, they'll be gone. I know this one guy told me that he had a craving, and he just stress and all kinds of stuff, but he didn't succumb to the craving. What he did was he decided to call his friend and just begin to chat with him. And before he knew it, it was over. The craving was gone. See, it's not permanent. Stressors are not permanent. The Bible says, weeping may endure for a night, but what? Joy cometh in the morning. One of the things that had me to a place where I knew that it wasn't permanent was I had an operation, and when I had the operation, they put these poles inside my stomach, and it hurt when the operation was over. To make a long story short, and they gave me Oxycontin. Now, if you know anything about Oxycontin, that is very, very addictive. And I'm gonna tell you what happened to me. It was crazy. The first time I was in so much pain, first time I asked them, they gave me the Oxycontin and the pain went away. Then the second time they gave it to me, the pain went away. Then the third time they came into the room, it was just a few hours later. The pain was gone away, but it was like in my brain it said, hey, if you like this feeling, you can get you another one of those. All you have to do is say your pain tolerance is gone up from is a 7 or above. And when I started hearing it, listen. Now you may say that was nothing wrong. I say that was the addictive brain on the inside. It was trying to addictive voices trying to convince me to indulge. But listen what I said. I said, that's all right. You can keep this. I'd rather deal with the pain than deal with with those voices, because Oxycontin can cause all kinds of stuff to happen that you don't want to happen. Then they tried to give me gabapentin. Gabapentin, I was like, yo, I'm not even taking that either. I'm going to deal with it. Just give me Tylenol and some ibuprofen, and I'm as much as that I can handle, and I'm going to deal with it. It didn't take my pain away. I want you to know it didn't take my pain away, but it eased it enough so I could get some sleep. But once the medicine wore off, I was up and I was at home and it was cold outside, but I went outside walking. I was walking early in the morning outside dealing with the pain. And I said, I can deal with this. It's not going to last always. Each day, the pain got better. The pain got better. The pain got better. And finally, I was recovered. Listen, I'm telling you that whatever you're going through, it don't last always. It feels like it's going to be, but you can outlast anything. All right. Now, number five, remember, watch this. All trouble has an expiration date. And I know it says it's not permanent and it sounds like the same. No. Expiration date means not only is it not going to last, but it also means this. It becomes unusable. It becomes spoiled, if you will. I remember when I was young, and this was crazy. I worked at Shoney's, and I was mischievous. I tried to I took some liberties that I should not have taken, and I went into the cooler, and my supervisor came in, and I heard him, and I was trying to get me some chocolate milk, and I grabbed the chocolate milk, and I poured it. I just turned it up and gulped it, and it was bad. I drink clumps. It had expired. It was terrible. Man, it was messed up. Listen, I want you to know. I know some people are saying out there saying, man, that's nasty. It was. Whatever situation, it has an expiration date. It means it's not going to last always. Have you ever heard the statement, time heals all wounds? Well, that's not true, but the thought is, if you give it enough time, it can be repaired. If you did something wrong to your loved one and they're not talking to you, just give it some time and keep doing the right thing over time. And that unforgiveness will expire. If there you are, you gotta, you're on probation. Hey, do what you gotta do. The amount of time is going to pass by, and after that time passes, watch this, your probation will expire. It is going to have an expiration date. You hear me? You hear me? So you got to know that. And the last one I want to say to you, I want to say this. Remember, worry produces struggles. Worry produces struggles. Everybody, repeat that after me. Worry produces struggles. On here, it says sickness. I see the sickness, but sickness is struggles. The biggest contributor to all sickness in America, all of it, is worry, stress, heart attacks, strokes, hypertension, diabetes, back problems, mental illness. It's all related to worry. It's all related to stress. It's all related to being overthinking about something that appears may go wrong. I don't have time to deal with it tonight. I'm going to deal with that next week because I'm going to keep the same subject. But listen, worry is the opposite of faith. Faith produces the things that you want to happen, but worry produces what you don't want to happen. And I'll show you that on next week. I want you to understand that that's what this thing is all about. The adversary, the disease, wants to get you to a place where you forget the things that you've been taught and do what you feel, how you feel about it. Well, that I'm gonna pick it up next week, but I do want you to understand that you have a 100% chance to live a complete addiction-free life if you do it God's way. God bless you. If you need to get in contact with us, go to hohcc.org, or you can send us a message through Messenger, Facebook Messenger, or send us an email for medicineforthemind919@gmail.com. I want to say something to you that's so powerful. If you can stay sober for one day, you can do it for a lifetime.